Something new every year, I guess.
Okay, Israel. Hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, time flies in Israel on our weekend, so it don't even feel like we had a weekend. Hope everybody had a good day or two to get themselves together, because we're back on the grind and it's Monday. So once again, hope everybody's Shabbat was good, the weekend was solid. Shalom to all Israel out there, doing the work, making those sacrifices, making that commitment. ISBHPK Houston, ISBHPK Virginia, ISBHPK Rochester, ISBHPK San Antonio, Cabo Cabe, Guatemala, teaching their brothers and sisters in Los Angeles and the East Coast, London, Amiataza, and let's hope everybody's doing well today. Today, I want to go over just a topic. It's nothing that hasn't been heard before. We haven't gone over before, but I think it's kind of a good reminder. The more we deal with brothers and sisters and wives and family, how important the need to properly communicate is. Okay, the title of the class is how the Most High prefers Israel to communicate, and that's really what the verse in the class is about. About how the Most High prefers Israel to communicate, and we're going to go into a lot of verses that kind of just deal with different aspects of communication and motivations behind why we communicate, how we communicate, and how to make sure that while we're communicating, we're pleasing the Heavenly Father.
And communication is the blood of a camp. It's the blood of a family. It's the blood of a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's the flesh and bone of our relationships.
How to keep relationships together and strong and potent. Did you imagine, man?
Okay, I got my
what's in there, man? Listen, you know how you do it, man. There we go.
Flavors in Texas, right?
Yeah, there we go, man. Now flavors in Texas. Now we're ready to rock. But the first verse we're going to go into is Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha, chapter 5. Now, if there's any questions, y'all, feel free to raise your hands online, chime in. We're going to take our time today to make sure there's no misunderstandings and there's not a lack of communication or understanding even on our end today. So, Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha, chapter 5, verse 10 through 13.
Come. Ready?
I am ready.
Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 10 reads, "Be steadfast in thy understanding."
And what's very important is before we have an opinion or a feeling about anything, what gets a lot of us in trouble is that we speak, we communicate without understanding a situation, without understanding people, without understanding the why of things. So one of the first things we have to learn to do while we're learning how to communicate is to have a proper understanding of the situation before we start providing our opinion. And there's another verse, I don't think I put it in there, but it says a wise man is swift to what?
Hear.
It's swift to hear. Swift to hear and slow to speak, and so you can get understanding. Because it doesn't make sense to comment and communicate about scenarios that you're not fully up to speed on or up to date on. So that's whether you're dealing with a wife, dealing with a husband, dealing with people and situations. Make sure we understand the why before we practice commenting on things.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, let's continue.
Be steadfast in thy understanding, and let thy word be the same.
And he says, be steadfast in your understanding, and let your word be the same. The things that you make sure that your word is steadfast. Make sure you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Okay? That way it's easier for a man to measure you. Okay? Because the only thing we have to show for our time on earth, the only thing we have to show in dealing with men is our word. And do we keep our word? Or do we fight our tails off to keep our word? Okay? So he says, make sure your word is the same. Read on.
Verse 11, be swift to hear.
And this verse says the same thing. How it's important to be quick to listen. To be quick to understand a circumstance before reacting to a circumstance. Read on.
Be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere.
And he says, when you're dealing with judgment, when you're dealing with understanding people, there's a lot that has to happen before we even begin to speak, before we begin to communicate, before we begin to express ourselves. He says you have to hear, you have to understand, and then it says, let thy life be sincere. Why is that important?
The character of the man, respect of the opinion, the validity of the opinion. What is the manner of the man that drives the force of the understanding?
That.
Okay. And also you want, if your life's going to be sincere, that means your conversation has to reflect what you truly believe and who you truly are, how you really feel.
And your conversation reflects your sincerity.
Right.
Because what you're going to read, we're going to continue to read about one of the key aspects of being a good and a potent communicator is to be sincere in your consciousness towards the Most High, to be sincere in your intentions with people. The more sincere your intentions are with the people you work with, the purer your conversation is going to be. What I mean by sincerity, trying to find the exact line where we just read that. He says, and let thy life be sincere. I have to be sincere in how I even receive people. I have to be sincere in how I take people and how I take people's presence. Because how many times do we take people personal and then we communicate and react based upon taking a person personally? This is the issue. Yes, sir.
I had a definition for sincere, 1828.
Mhm.
Sincere means unhurt, uninjured.
To be sincere means you're unhurt and you're uninjured, which means so if I'm a good communicator, I have the ability not to let what other people say or do to me affect me. If I don't let people affect me, if I don't take people personal, then my communication can be pure. My communication can be the way it's supposed to be.
How many times do we have conversations with our people we care about, and then things get tense, things escalate in tone, and then we say something, quote unquote,
Because we get offended.
I said something that I didn't mean,
Mhm.
quote unquote, but that really happens because as the tensions and the mood intensifies, my nature changes because I'm sensitive.
Which means if my sincerity isn't pure,
Yeah.
then my communication isn't pure. And we're going to read about what's the contrary aspect to having insincere outlook, insincere emotionally. What you going to say, Naga?
I was just asking, is it like baggage as well? Like
Baggage has everything to do with it. And we're going, as we go into class, we're going to start seeing how baggage and negative outlook and insecurities and doubt and weakness in ourselves is what fuels negative communication. Okay? Pride, anger, distrust. But let's keep going. Read verse 12 again.
You mean verse 11?
Is it? Yeah, verse 11.
Come. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 11 reads, be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer.
With patience give answer. Before you communicate and respond, make sure that you're emotionally prepared to respond to somebody. How many times do we just speak in the heat of our emotions, speak in the heat of our anger, speak in the heat of our discontent, and wonder why the responses aren't the way that we'd like it to be?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
the effect
apologize.
is bad. And now, listen, I don't know about you, but when you're dealing with relationship building, you can sit back here and put weeks and weeks and months of positive work in, and one day can sit back here and set you back a year.
That's true.
One bad interaction can set you back for 6 months. And all the good work you put into communication and relationship building gets tossed to the side because of how I felt today and how I reacted to my feelings today. Okay, continue.
Come. Verse 12. If thou hast understanding,
If you have understanding, what?
answer thy neighbor.
How many times do we answer our brother without even understanding why a person's doing what they're doing? If I'm going to answer, if I'm going to respond to my brother without understanding him, then how am I responding to him? or to her. I'm responding emotionally. If I'm not responding with understanding, then I'm responding with emotion, and I'm being effeminate. Yes, sis? We are in Ecclesiasticus chapter 5. We started in verse 10, but we're at verse 12 now. Let's read that verse again.
Come.
I want to make sure we're clear on this.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 5, verse 12 reads, If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor.
If you have understanding, then you answer. But how many times do we understand the matter before we communicate? Most of the time, we respond to our neighbor, to our wife, to our husband, based off what we think the situation is, or based off how we feel, not the real reason. Not having a proper understanding of our neighbor, and this is where a lot of these issues arise in our communication and how we interact with the person we love, with the brothers we're trying to get to know. Half the time we have clashes with one another because we just don't understand why the hell people do what the hell they do. And we don't take the time to understand the why before we respond. And because we are immature and inconsistent with this approach to dealing with issues and people, there's always negative blowback that happens to us in our lives and in our households. Yes?
Can I pull this point right here? To mirror what you're saying at this point, Ecclesiasticus 9:18. I don't think it's in there.
You didn't even check it, man. You
No,
didn't even check.
I spoke rashly.
Listen, you didn't sit back here and get the understanding first, Zach.
No.
I'm messing with him. That's a joke, because he's not offending me. I'm just messing with him.
Got it.
Ecclesiasticus 9 and what's up?
9 and 18.
You ready?
Yes, sir?
Yes, it is.
Ecclesiasticus.
No, that is part of the
Oh, are you serious?
Yes. As a heart attack.
Okay.
You know why I didn't know? Because I wrote it from 9 verse 15 to 18.
Okay.
So it's a whole shebang.
Let it go.
That's like the El Fin. That's like the finale of it. Come on, man.
I spoke
That's
rashly.
the latter portion of the class. Tennis class. Anyway, we'll get to it. I promise. But there's a point.
I completely get it.
So let's get back to Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 5
And 12.
in verse 12.
Come. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor.
Okay, but if you don't have understanding about the situation, and if you don't understand why people are doing what they're doing, then what are you supposed to do?
If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth.
How many times do we do that? How many times do we choose to keep our mouth shut until we get the full picture? And this is why a lot of times we get into so much trouble with communicating with the people that we say we love. But we don't take the time to put the work in to understand before we communicate. But listen, Sirach is saying, listen, man, put your hand over your mouth and shut up until you understand a person before you start having negative outlooks and you start having emotional responses to people. Because that's what we do. We have emotional responses based upon half-ass understanding. And then we're bold and confident in having no clue as to why a person does what they do. You know, half the time when young brothers are giving me reports about young men, they're always telling me, this person is bad. They do bad things. And I'm like, thank you, Captain Obvious, for telling me how bad these people are in the nation of Israel. But can you tell me why they're such bad people? And I rarely get the answers. Then it's like, okay, so we're going to have to do some more deep sea diving to get the understanding as to why people are doing the things that they're doing. The better we get at understanding the why, the better we can provide solutions, answers, and clarity to people's problems, and our communication can be pure, and we can be less blamed for how we deal with each other. Because what we're going to read on in class is about, you know what, I'm not going to say it, I'm just going to let the verse talk. Give me verse 13.
Come, verse 13. Honor and shame is in talk.
Honor and shame is all wrapped into how people talk. But people sit back here and just want to say this, you're a negative person or you're a positive person. The reality is we have the power to be both. Are we going to choose honorable positions of communication? Are we going to choose how to operate blameless? Or are we going to sit back here and always be blamed for how we talk, how hasty we are in our communication, how unthorough we are in our assumptions? Just because it makes sense to you don't mean it makes sense in general. A lot of times, if we feel it, then it's true. I've dealt with men for the thousands. I know how that brother is. How do you know for sure? Because I didn't been around brothers like that before. Whoa! So if one person acts a certain way, then everybody is supposed to act in that identical fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how. If you think it, that's what it is. We deal with people's insanity. I mean, I knew a jackass out in LA was acting like that, and this brother reminds me just of that person. I dealt with that all the time. I met that cat over here in West Texas. He got the same mannerisms, G. I'm like, wow. We all have those stories.
Yeah.
But we never teach ourselves through the scriptures how to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if you have partial understanding, you can't make mental assumptions based off what you think they are. Because when you start doing that, then your communication follows right behind it. And that's how you get caught in trouble. That's how you look shameful. That's how you put a stain on your honor. Because you're reacting off of impulse. You're reacting off of assumptions. And what Christ is trying to show us and what the scriptures is trying to show us is how to operate in a way that we're blameless and we can maintain the posture of honor. For young men, young sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, it will be very wise that we learn how to communicate and we learn how to bridle our emotions, how to bridle our feelings when we are trying to communicate with people. Because this is the way Paul even explains dealing with our words and our communication. He refers to it as having the willingness to bridle ourselves, because that's what it takes. But we're going to go into a little more. We're going to let this verse go. No, continue. Read verse 13 again from the top.
Come, honor and shame is in talk.
And that's a real thing. Honor, you can be looked upon with honor, or you can be looked upon like you a dirtbag and disrespected just because of how you talk and how you emotionally handle situations and circumstances. So this is what the Most High is trying to teach us. And it's not just about words, it's about how we emotionally respond to circumstances in our life. Okay? We're gonna keep going in that verse. Give me the last part of 13.
Come, and the tongue of man is his fault.
The tongue of man is his fault. Our tongue, how we react to people, how we respond to people is what brings us shame. How we are emotionally tied to how we talk to one another is the cause of our downfall. And listen, how many times have we sat back here and gone into knockdown dragouts because I was just mentally tired, mentally aggravated, and my wife at home is frustrated and she's mentally tired and aggravated, and neither of y'all want to fight your emotions and feelings enough just to choose your words properly. How many times have being in that situation end up turning into a 4-hour knockdown drag-out argument at night where nobody was getting sleep? Relationship was just feeling like crap. You were already tired. If you just would have controlled yourself just a little bit, you wouldn't have had a 3-hour argument at home that night. How many times that happened? How many times it happened with brothers? You're just tired, you're aggravated, and you say something that you didn't mean. How many times have you said that? Is it I said something that I didn't mean, or I was just mentally and spiritually weak and didn't want to control my emotions and how I felt, so I just reacted with my words the wrong way? It's a little bit of both. We're going to let that verse go, and we're going to go to the next verse, which is James chapter 3, verse 1 through 18. We're going through the whole chapter.
James 3.
James chapter 3, verse 1. Yes, sir?
Oh, I was just about to ask James chapter 11.
3 and 1. We're going to read the chapter, sir. If there's any questions, somebody I'm not understanding, let me know, you all right? Let's do it.
James chapter 3, verse 1. My brethren, be not many masters.
Listen, he says, Paul is saying, brethren, be not many masters. Everybody wants to be at the top. Everybody wants to rush to the top. Everybody wants to rush to be the head. But there's a consequence of being the head. Read on.
Knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation.
The ones that are taking on the most responsibility and wants that position, just know we're the ones that have to take the greater fall when we mess up. It's not all glitz and glamour. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of pressure. So Paul's like, don't be so quick to shoot for that spot. Because people don't know what they're really asking for until they get into that seat. And that seat's hot as hell. But let's keep going.
For in many things we offend all.
He said, so listen, he says, for in many things we offend all. Don't forget, verse 1 just said, when you're the top guy, your mistakes have greater consequences and greater condemnation. And verse 2 is like, for in many things we all offend. So we're all susceptible to mistakes and shortcomings and failures. The difference is, in our position, when we make mistakes, the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
And the consequences are greater. And we affect more people on a larger scale. And because of that, we have to really watch our P's and Q's a lot more. But he says everybody is susceptible to offending and being offended. Read on.
If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man.
He says if anybody doesn't offend in word, that same is a perfect man. That's the perfect man, though, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Not the internet perfect man. The biblical perfect man.
Yeah.
The truth is this. He says if we're able to operate in this spiritual life and to maintain that control, to maintain that wisdom, to maintain that discipline, to not be able to offend in our communication and how we do things, that person is perfect. Because in order to do that, not only must you know the law, you also must have complete control over your emotions and your feelings and your responses to where nobody is offended. That's the true sign of perfection. Your ability not to offend people, not to rub people the wrong way. What was your question?
I was going to add on to it, but I'll
Okay. So he's explaining to us that is a tough pursuit to maintain, but that still doesn't change the fact that's what we should be striving for.
It's a rare skill to attain.
That's the skill we should be like pursuing to and fighting for. Okay, let's continue.
Says, and able also to bridle the whole body.
No, I'm sorry. Read that verse 2 again.
This is James chapter 3 and verse 2 from the top.
But you can sit here.
For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body.
Because the thing is, in order to sit back and not offend anybody, to not step on toes, it shows a person's ability to control, because bridle means to control. When you put a bridle on a horse, that's how you control the direction that a horse goes. So in order to sit back and not be able to offend anybody, it really shows a perfect, complete dominance over your own spirit.
Yeah, my passions and weakness of temperament is not controlled by this
At all.
Yeah,
but that's what we should all be striving for, is the ability to control every aspect of our emotions so that our feelings and how we roll and our responses don't affect anybody.
Which helps us stabilize others.
And but just the notion that that's what we should be striving for should at least keep us on our toes and keep us conscious of how our attitude and how our words affect people. Okay?
It keeps us conscious of the other person's mindset and how it could affect their brother. It's another aspect of love and consideration.
On the next level.
Yeah.
And we're gonna what it's gonna do though, if you take it to heart too much, unfortunately, we'll start trying to learn and think how to cater to people. And that's not what Paul is talking about either. This is not about catering to people. This is about having an attitude and a way of communicating to not offend people down the line. Okay? So it's trying to find a balance of properly communicating, but also standing up for righteousness' sake. And we're going, as we go into class, it's going to kind of clarify that a lot more.
And you can see it on like just straight reality TV.
Well, I didn't want to go reality. I want to go Israel, because Israel back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Israel back in the 90s was all hard. We was the biggest, baddest guys in the block. Everybody was tough and strong, and it was almost like, we stand up for Christ, and if you don't like it, you can kick rocks.
We'll kill us. Kill you.
Exactly. that whole mindset, that was Israel's mindset. And you know what?
Come.
I understand why we were that way at the time,
Come.
but it still showed a immaturity in our presentation, and immaturity in how we communicated and dealt with people. But all this is going to make sense as we continue to go into class. Let's continue in James.
James chapter 3 and verse 3. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us.
Mm-hmm.
And we turn about their whole body.
We put bits in a horse's mouth so we can control the direction that we take horses. Okay? Read on.
Behold, also the ships, which though they be so great that are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth.
So that helm is what controls where you take the boat, regardless of where the wind direction is taken. Okay? Read on.
Verse 5. Even so, the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth.
He's telling you how troublesome our words can be. How troublesome.
A little anger, a little irritation.
Yep. A little pride.
Yeah.
A little selfishness. How much damage you can do with your words. How much damage you can do because you chose to be emotional that day. You chose not to listen. You chose to have a temper. We have to get to the point that our temper is controlled. Our emotions are controlled. Our demeanor is controlled. Because if not, a few words can sit back here and break bones.
Yeah.
It tells you that in the scriptures. Hold that, because I didn't put that in here. Matter of fact, give me that verse. Give me that verse. Read on in verse 5. No, verse 6, I mean. And we'll sit back here and go into that. But keep going.
James 3 and 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity.
The mouth, how we talk, how we respond to things is a world of iniquity. Because the tongue is a world of iniquity is because it's a gateway to what's really in your spirit. How we talk, how we communicate is a gateway to what's going on in our spirit and going on in our mind. The restlessness, the unhappiness, the anger that we're dealing with in our mind, it comes directly out in our words. And he's showing us, Paul is showing us how dangerous our community. You can take a seat there because he left. If you didn't take a seat.
I just got that verse for you.
Okay, pull the verse in.
20:17.
Ecclesiastes 28, verse 17.
Let me use the other verse I got here. Hold on a second. You said Ecclesiastes
28 and 17.
Okay, let me see. Read that, sir.
Ecclesiastes 28 and 17. The stroke of the whip maketh marks in the flesh.
Hell yeah. Think about glory. How that made you feel when you saw glory. That brings everybody back to some real stuff. When our boy threw his shirt off, he was like, "This man, I'm gonna take it, then. Let's go, let's go." And he got like hit like 10 times. It was like 7 times. He was holding on strong, right? And then that last one, you saw that tear, right? Everybody, that was Academy Award gold right there, right? That was pure Academy Award gold when that tear came out, right? I don't know if y'all remember that, but it was great acting. Right? Point is, you saw that whip and how it affected him. You understand what we mean. You sit back here. I don't know if you read a book called Bullwhip Days, and it has that Judite brother with his back was just ripped up, and he's had scars on scars on scars. It wasn't just one set of marks. It was multiple beatings over time. So it's explaining how damaging those type of beatings are. But read on.
The strokes of the whip maketh marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaketh the bone.
The stroke of the tongue breaketh the bones. How we talk can break people. How we communicate can discourage people. You have to understand that when you're dealing with young spirits, young-minded people, we all want people to serve the Most High in Christ with gladness and joyfulness of heart. We want everybody to self-study and be strong on their own and find the inward motivation to do the things the right way. But unfortunately, it takes time for people to get to that point. And a lot of times people are living off of your spirit. People are living day to day off of your confidence. Living day to day off of your faith. Perfect example are your children. Your children are sitting back here and living day to day based off how well you keep it together. Just imagine just tearing down their confidence because you're angry. Tearing them down, breaking their spirit because you just ain't feeling it that day. He's just explained to us, just like we can be damaging to our children, we can be damaging to our brothers and sisters. And we have to be more conscious of what comes out of our mouth, because what comes out of our mouth can break. It can break bones. It can kindle a fire.
Break a spirit.
There's a lot of damage that comes out of how we deal with people. Let that go in Ecclesiastes. No, we're good. No, it was 28 and 17. I've heard, yeah, that was another one, but that'll be later. We can use it. No, we're good. Wait. Well, say, yeah, verse 18. Yeah. It's the same concept.
Ecclesiastes 28 and 18. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as have fallen by the tongue.
Listen, you know how many millions of people have died in wars in history? It's more than trillions. And he says more people have been broken by words than in wars.
That been the main thing in Israel. It's the way someone says something to them, how they treat it. You know what I mean?
Or it's the way things are said, or it's how we look at it, how we look at people, which brings out the negative communication. You're right about how the words have broken, how words break people, but why do words break people? Because Israel's outlook is so foul. We don't have enough composure and mercy inwardly to be able to sit back here and maintain proper communication with our wives.
It can come from a place
with
of
our
disgust.
children. Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
Half the time,
Where's it coming
we're
from?
ugly with people in front of us because we're black-hearted inside. We hate ourselves. So if I hate myself, you think I'm gonna be brotherly to somebody else?
Not gonna happen.
That's why people are just habitually rude and moody and negative. Esau calls it you're projecting. When I hate myself inwardly, I'm going to tear down people outwardly. And he says that mindset is what breaks bones.
Toxic communication.
That's what destroys families. That's what destroys people more than war. Because most people can't get over their self-hatred, their lack of patience, their lack of mercy, their own skeptical, everybody's out to get me mindset, that paranoia. Either you hate yourself or you're paranoid and you think everybody's out to get you. I've worked with buddies and say, yeah, man, that car's been across the street for 4 hours.
No.
And he's looking at it. I'm like, what is he looking at? He's like, he's been scoping us out. I'm like, are you sure he's scoping you out? There's no other reason. There's no other reason that car is there, but that he's scoping you out. Con. His eyes are big as hell. And I'm like, I want to say, how much sleep have you been getting lately, bro? But
I've been hearing that engine all day.
Yeah, listen, I've been hearing that engine all day.
How long, huh? 3 whole days, huh?
Listen,
3 days straight.
This is not a lie. I wish it was. I wish it was, but it isn't. People operate with these extreme forms of paranoia and wonder why other people get pushed away. Our own paranoia, our own self-hatred, our own lack of wanting to get hurt, and then we'll preemptive strike the hurt. You ever seen that before?
Yeah,
I don't want to get hurt. I'm going to push you off to protect me from you leaving me. I'd rather leave you and push you off than you leave me.
Yeah.
I'll self-sabotage it than to walk around here and know that you left me.
Yeah, we can't deal with that.
So let me keep tearing you down so I can say, see, I knew you were going to leave.
That was stupid.
I knew you didn't care. What? But this is people's behavior. This is Israel. And these are examples of how that attitude breaks family and people and the people around you. We're not dealing with stable people. When the most talks about how Israel is sick, we are sick. And these are different forms of it. Different forms of some insecurity, self-hatred, self-loathing, everything. But that negative is what comes out in our communication. And this is how we run people off, and this is how we tear down all the good that we're supposed to be doing with each other. Okay? So, Marion, where are we at? We finished verse 18, right? Did we? We finished 18? Okay. So let that go and go back to James.
James chapter 3, verse 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue amongst our members, that it defileth the whole body.
The tongue defiles the whole body. Now we read it when Christ was talking, it's not what goes into a man that defiles your body, it's what goes outside of a man that defiles your body. It's the tongue, but it's not just the tongue, it's the tongue, and it's the envy, it's the negative, it's the lust, it's the pride that's already inside of you that comes out through your tongue, comes out through your communication. It comes out when you're tired. It comes out when you're vexed. It comes out when you're worn down. Just because you're tired doesn't give you a right to snap at your husband. Just because you're tired doesn't give you a right to sit back and snap at a brother. That's not a good enough excuse. That's just you making excuses for poor behavior. I've heard that 1,000. I was tired. You gotta understand, I'm tired. I'm going through things. What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? Stop. It's an old saying. It has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. Your attitude doesn't justify how you feel. Doesn't justify what you're doing to people around you.
They're not even related.
They're not related. Well, let's keep going.
It says, so the tongue amongst our members, so is the tongue amongst our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature.
Our negativity sets on fire the course of nature, people's development. Because a lot of times when you have young people trying to grow, most of the time they can't get past what somebody said or did to them. It's no longer about serving the Most High, growth, learning, getting understanding. It's this person hurt me. This person did me wrong. This person broke my spirit. This person tore me down. So now the natural course that the Most High had them going on is now tainted because of our selfishness. Read on.
And is set on fire of hell. Verse 7. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea, is tamed, and has been tamed of mankind.
So man has sat back here and tamed serpents.
Lions.
His lions has stopped the damn the shark ain't a menace. He's not a problem.
Yeah.
All these animals out here in the world, they're not a problem. Man has controlled animal kind.
God.
Read on.
But the tongue can no man tame.
Can't control your words. We can control all these beasts and these four-footed beasts and creatures, but we can't control our mouth. We can't control our emotions. We can't control our thoughts. He's just showing you, as physically dominant as we are in the world, we're mentally and spiritually weak. Because we don't have the capacity to control the words that come out of our face most of the time. Read on.
It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we the Most High, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of the Most High.
He says we should sit back and bless the Most High and understand that men are cursed. Read on.
Verse 10. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessing and cursing.
He says out of the same mouth proceeds blessings and cursing. But what you're going to read is that's not a normal thing. It's not a normal thing to have a vessel that produces good and produces evil right behind it.
At the same time.
That dynamic is insanity. It goes against nature. And look how he parallels the explanation between how we communicate. Sometimes we're positive, sometimes we're negative, sometimes we're loving, and sometimes we're cruel. And that up and down, inconsistent mindset we have, look how the Most High compares it with how the nature of the world operates. Read on.
My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doth the fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter?
That's the point. Does the fountain have good water
That's not
and
natural.
bad on tap?
It's
You
polluted
sit back
water
here going
and clean
that
water.
doesn't make
It's
sense.
not
That
good.
doesn't happen. You're not going the water. You can't drink the water at all because you don't know what's going to be in there.
Because it's inconsistent.
And that's the point. And it can't be relied upon. If this fountain is what I use for water for my family, water for my household, sometimes it gives me sweet water, good water, and sometimes it's bad.
You have to avoid it.
You have to avoid it completely because it goes against the nature of how the Most High set things up.
That's how trust is broken, friendships are broken. That's how people are like, why anybody like me?
And this is why marriages are always on the rocks.
Yeah.
This is why unions are unstable. Because people are unstable. People aren't consistently the same person every day. And we wonder why we have chaotic results. But our output is chaotic. We have chaotic output, chaotic communication, but we want consistent love reciprocated back to us.
Yeah. I have the right to be abrasive, but you better not offend me.
Exactly.
That's
it goes against the nature of how people in the world, Most High created the world. You're inconsistent as all get out, but you want consistency and dedication. Today you're smiling, tomorrow you're not. Tomorrow you're tearing me down, and you're ultra micromanaging everything, and you're ultra nitpicking. I told you about the guy that was angry and cussed his wife out about the beans sliding over on the right side.
Yeah.
Listen, that's a real thing. People sit back here and are too controlling and domineering, and then tomorrow I'm hugging it and I love you, baby.
You're either one.
I love you. Thank you. And then tomorrow I'm yelling at you for some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
Brothers are the same way. Today I'm listening, tomorrow I ain't. I'm just reacting and responding, and I'm angry. The next day I ain't talking to nobody. The next day I'm dapping and smiling.
No one knows what to expect.
All that bipolar insanity.
Yeah.
He's telling you, we weren't created to be that way. Our operation was supposed to be one way. Are we going to give? Are we going to be brotherly? Are we going to be loving? Why should my surroundings dictate how I treat and talk to people on a daily basis? It shows how spiritually immature we are. If my surroundings are constantly dictating how I communicate, how I listen, how I conform and work with people. Let's continue.
This is James chapter 3, verse 12. Can the fig tree, my brother, bear olive berries?
Fig trees are going to produce figs. Olive trees are going to produce olives. Read on.
Either a vine figs?
Is a vine going to produce figs? No. A vine is going to produce grapes. Read on.
So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh?
Yes. Read on.
Who is a wise man?
And it shows salt water and fresh are just two different complete natures.
Huh.
And so it shows the personalities natures. People with fluctuating personalities and it fluctuating in temperament, that's just not a natural thing.
That's crazy because like you can grab salt water and a glass of water and fresh water, and they look the same.
Till you taste it.
But their nature's not the same.
And they don't come from the same source. And that's the point. He's explaining that our communication should be either pure or foul. Having the mixture is what confuses people. And it's confusing and it produces inconsistent results. But what do we get mad at all the time? We get mad that our responses aren't consistent.
Yep.
We get mad that our wife doesn't respond to us the same way every day. We don't respond to them the same way every day. Right?
Huh.
But this is the hypocrisy that is mankind. Well, let's keep going.
Verse 13. Who is a wise man Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge amongst you?
So who is going to be that wise person that's consistent enough to be relied upon and trusted? Okay, read on.
Let him shoot out of a good conversation.
So that person is going to actually be endued with knowledge amongst us, and it's going to be somebody who's going to be relied upon and trusted. It says, let that person show out a good conversation. Read on.
His works with meekness of wisdom.
So his conversation is going to match his works of meekness and wisdom. The words have to match the mindset. If you want to sit back here and get consistent communication, the mindset has to adjust and be about wisdom and humility. And meek, it said meekness for a reason. Because to be meek means to do what?
Endure injury without resentment.
To endure injury without resentment. So if you're going to be a good communicator, you have to be meek. In order to sit back here and be the same person every day, you have to be meek. I have to be willing to endure different injuries. Too many times, we're too angry about the fact that we were injured.
Yeah.
We can't get past the fact that somebody let me down. Somebody pissed me off. Somebody looked at me a certain way or responded to me a certain way. If you're going to be able to have good communication, then I have to be meek enough not to take other people's negativity personally. That's the only way I can stay blameless in the eyes of Christ. I can't let other people's issues affect my perception, affect how I look at people, and ultimately, if my perception and how I look at people stay the same, my communication stays pure. Then I won't be guilty of the same thing I have a problem with the other person doing. Somebody has to stop this repeated cycle of offenses. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah.
Because the problem is one person offends, the other person responds. The next person offends, the other person responds.
And it's back and forth.
If communication is going to get changed and tweaked, somebody has to stop being overreactive about everything. Then the communication can get stable and constructive, and things can get accomplished through communication. Okay? Read on.
Verse 14. But if ye have bitter envy and strife in your heart.
But if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, that's how communication turns bad. That's why communication is bad in the first place. Because I got envy in me. I got strife in me. I'm looking to sit back here and make people feel how I feel. That's why we hurt each other. We hurt each other because we want to make people feel how we feel.
Yeah.
We lack the ability to be meek. We lack the ability to be let down, but not give it back. Because that's what pure communication is. Can I sit back here and get let down and not give back what I think was given to me wrongly?
Real for real.
Exactly. We're not supposed to go railing for railing. Somebody has to be the spiritual adult in the house, in the camp, in the school, in the interactions between people. He's telling you what it takes. Meekness. Somebody has to take low so communication can be maintained and you can be blameless. But that person with strife and envying, it's just going to be back and forth. It's going to be pride versus pride. Retaliation versus retaliation. Anger versus anger. Nothing gets done. Then people get hurt. Then you up the ante with saying hurtful and rude things. Then the relationship starts to break up. Bonds fall apart. Unions fall apart. Because of pride. What you going to say, Amiathi?
It not only says envy, but it says bitter envy. That's a buildup of that envy and that strife.
Because you know what? We don't know how to forgive and let things go. We don't let things go unless we do something back to somebody. Unless we retaliate. Unless I make you feel like you made me feel.
Yeah.
And that's how we're short-sighted, and that's how we miss the mark in fighting to be perfect in Christ. Isn't that what we talked about in the beginning of James? If you're going to be perfect, the people that are around you won't be getting offended. You won't have any records of stepping on toes and arguments and letting people down and hurting people and doing people wrong. So we all have a long way to go to pursue perfection.
And the
in
reason
Christ.
why is because I'm in control of my passions before the speeches comes out. It's not just he controls his tongue,
Yep.
he's in control in general.
Listen.
In general, this person's practicing control.
But you're practicing control. The root of practicing control is being offended and having the capacity through the scriptures to let it go. Can you let it go? That's the only way your response won't be retaliatory, won't be damaging, won't be backed by anger and hatred and strife. He's explained to us this is what it takes to communicate the way the Most High in Christ wants us to communicate. Let's continue.
Verse 14 from the top. But if ye have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, glory not.
He said, don't sit back here and glory in other spiritual achievements you might have achieved. Don't glory in your work ethic. If you're shit with controlling your emotions and you're horrible at controlling your mindset and you don't know how to forgive, what good is knowing the law and glorying in that if you have no ability to bridle your tongue? You have no ability to control and bridle your emotions or your negative outlook towards people. So all the other good that you're doing, what good is it? What good is that in this arena?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people glory in things and they rest on what they're glorying in and ignore all the other deficiencies that they have. Read on.
Verse 15. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual.
When we're controlled by our envy and our emotions and our self-loathing and our hatred and our distrustful nature, that paranoid nature, and that paranoid nature of ours is what is the reason why I snap at people sometimes, or the reason why I yell at people sometimes, the reason why I'm violent at times, and this violence just comes out of nowhere. That's devilish wisdom. That's not spiritual.
I'm being preemptive out of fear and out of weakness.
Or I'm just going to tear you down because I'm just angry. Or I just want to tear you down because that's how I keep control over a person. I browbeat you. Israel does that too. Israel, the king, is sitting back here and making people feel small so they can keep dominance over them. He says all those tactics of controlling your environment, of trying to keep things at bay, is devilish. It's non-Christ. And if those are your tactics, it's showing you how far away you are in truly pleasing Him. Read on.
Verse 16.
It shows you can have all the other abilities. If you're not working on this, you're destroying people. And if you're destroying people, or you're building, you're not building, you're tearing people down. How can you sit back and say you are a shepherd of the Most High in Christ? If these are your tactics to control and to keep people from hurting you. The very fact of being meek means you're going to get hurt. So now I want to say things and do things to control you from hurting me. That lets you know how sick you are.
In that position.
But you don't want to be in that position because you're sick. Because being clear-minded, there's an expectation that people are going to let you down and leave you.
That's true.
And that doesn't change. That can't change how you act towards the next person that comes around. We'll tell women that. You treat me like your ex. Like your ex. You got to give me a clear slate. I'm not your ex. We do the same thing with brothers. We'll sit back and take some type of trauma we experience in the world, and we'll push it on the next person. You know how many men I've seen that have had father issues, and they take it out on the authority issue in a camp? Either I didn't have a father, so anybody who reminds me of a father, I'm going to take it out on him. Or my father was hard on me, and I didn't understand it and like it, so I'm going to make it hard on the person who's trying to be a father to the fatherless.
Yeah.
Like the scripture said, well, Christ said being a father to the father. That's hard-ass work. Because that fatherless kid don't really want a damn father half the damn time. How about that?
Yeah.
The fatherless kid is angry and wants to take all his anger out on the person who's trying to help him. But all these psychological issues, where does it come from? All these deficiencies and these hang-ups and these this self-loathing. Where is it coming from? Give me verse 15.
James chapter 3 verse 15. This wisdom descendeth not from above.
This is not from a spiritual place. Read on.
But is earthly, sensual, devilish.
The words keep getting worse.
Yeah.
Earthly,
First is earthly.
sensual, then it's evil of the devil.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Because it's
devilish.
low level. Because earthly means
It's
low level
base.
base.
It's base. And our
low
thinking
vibration.
is base. What's you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you. It's of a low vibration.
And that's how we operate when we get to the nitty gritty of each other.
Yeah.
When we get past the Yeetzies and the fringes and the I just always when we get past all of the paraphernalia,
That's funny.
the Jewish paraphernalia, then we get to the core of a man. And that core of a man is full of hatred and self-loathing. And these are the things that you have to attack in yourself if you're going to pursue perfection in Christ. Yes, sis. I said the Yeetsies wrong. I'm sorry. I always laugh when I see it. What's up, sis?
Going back to verse 14, can
Yes, ma'am.
you give an example of what glorying would be?
Glorying is just, he said glory not. So it says don't glory in these things. This is just not to be proud of it. Okay? So let's read it from the top again. But if
I ain't gonna let
you have
nobody
bitter
tell me
envy-
what to do. Glory is when people romanticize their negative.
That's true.
People love to romanticize. I've never let him tell me a damn. Whoa, bro.
I'm never going to sit back here and expose my heart to get hurt again.
I will never put myself in a position like that
again.
Ever. It's been 10, 15 years. I'll never do it again. And like you're like romanticizing how off you are from the actual idea of being a disciple of Christ. Because being a disciple of Christ means meekness is a must. Fighting your emotions is a must. It's a daily skill you have to have. And also learning and taking correction and not ready to spew venom after correction is a must.
So going back to your point, you just said I'm never going to put myself in this position again. Well, that's the meekness actually says you're supposed to put yourself back in a position again. Listen, most I said if it talks about giving the other cheek.
Yeah.
So if somebody sits back here and offends you, you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Yeah. That means I'm supposed to put myself back in a position to get hurt again, to get let down. That's living like Christ.
Or the famous one is No one's ever gonna talk to me like that.
Yeah, but you know, all these are carnal coping mechanisms to hide ourselves from negativity and trauma that we experience in our youth. And how we cope with our trauma is the root of it all. How we cope with our trauma is, you know what's crazy? The act that the person did to us for us to be guarded is negative. But how we react to trauma is devilish. How we respond to the trauma is devilish. How we protect ourselves from being hurt again is how you protect yourself in a worldly frame of mind. Not in a spiritual frame of mind. If I was hurt, if I was let go, I still have to put myself back into a situation where I have to trust again. Yes?
And lie not against the truth. How does that explain in like 14 from that first part?
Okay, you know why? Because half the time, that justification to hold that negative stance is all based on that glory and that stance is the lie.
Oh, okay.
We're the greatest liars in the world. All the justifications we use to hold our positions, to not change, to not forgive, to not give people the benefit of the doubt, to not trust, to not love unconditionally. Listen, all those things, we lie to ourselves. We give ourselves, like Dahlia brought it out, the narrative slave class. Like, you create this negative, you create this narrative, and you stick to it. And that's your mantra. And you hold on to that mantra so that you don't put yourself in a situation to get hurt again. But that method, that wisdom, that knowledge is devilish. That coping mechanism is devilish.
These are my carnal justifications.
And those carnal justifications
to protect myself.
That protects yourself ends up oozing out with your words. Ends up oozing out with that negative tongue, with that negative communication. And that's how you break spirits. That's how your words break bones. Your words break bones because all your words are predicated on these lies you've held on to protect yourself from being hurt in the first place.
And bones is supposed to be your strength. Bones is supposed to be what keeps your frame together. So you're losing whatever you're building is breaking down. You're building whatever your marriage is based on, the word and conversation can break that marriage.
And how many times
brotherhood was based on my words and my conversation can break down that brotherhood.
Our relationship, our brotherhood, our marriages, they break down because of men and women's insecurities, their fear, their self-loathing. The fact that the reason marriages break is because people don't want to see themselves. And it's easier to run somebody off than to see themselves.
And to do work.
And then to work to change with society.
Because the work to change is what Christ wants. But I have a carnal justification, and I can have a story. The
lie.
I've been through so much. You don't know how many times I've been here. You know how many times I've been through this situation?
I got so much trouble on my mind.
There you go. Got so much. I would not.
That's an old song right there, man. But yeah.
I would not go through this again. I would never put myself through this again, man. Yeah. I would just leave before this. Like, hold on.
And this is.
Are we talking about Christ, or are we talking about your past traumas? Your traumas start to define your new relationship.
Your past traumas define what you will or what you won't do for the Most High in Christ. And that knowledge, that mindset is what's devilish. It's what's earthy. It's what's sensual.
Because Satan's betting his bottom dollar is hoping that you hold on to the trauma so he can manipulate you. That's his game.
Because you know the problem is when we sit back here and explain that the reason you went through that trauma is because of the curses. Because that's what Deuteronomy 28 is all about. All these insecurities, all this paranoia, all this lack of trust, negative outlook is based upon what we experienced in the world while we didn't have the knowledge. We were under the curses. Now we're not under the curse anymore. Now we have the law. Now we have Christ. Shouldn't that mean we should let go of our old coping mechanisms that we had based on the curses?
Yeah, we should.
But we don't. So we have the knowledge, but we still have devilish wisdom.
Yeah.
We still have devilish ways of processing
Coping,
things.
yeah.
We have devilish coping mechanisms, and those coping mechanisms and the ways we protect ourselves is what's spewed out in our daily communication. And that's what breaks bones. That's what hurts people. That's what pushes people away
And then you get to the
from
core
us.
of a person, when you finally get to the real root issue, they say, I just don't want nobody to make me
I don't
feel-
want to get hurt no more.
I don't want nobody to make me feel small.
I don't want to feel bad. I don't want people to leave me. I don't want to look dumb.
Yeah.
I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't want the mocking spirit around me.
The mocking spirit is real. It's almost
That's a
real.
joke, but it's an inside thing. But there's a lot of things people are afraid to face because of the humiliation they felt.
Yeah, middle school flashbacks, street flashbacks, family flashbacks, whatever culture's in your family. You're the dark one. You are the dark one in the family, right? 'Cause I come from a family, everybody is light skinned in my family, right? Except for me, right? So like, he ain't one of us. He ain't one of us. But you know what? That's what it is.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
That's a
You're
real
the,
damn
you're the
thing.
dark one in the family, the black sheep, literally, right? So it's the opposite. It's still a problem, right? So
You weren't black enough, right? No. That's the
see,
thing.
that's a big problem too.
That's a real thing.
Nothing you do is black enough.
I don't have the dreads.
So
he
based,
ain't real enough, but that's crazy.
it's not real enough. So based off those traumas, we carry those insecurities with us.
Hell yeah.
Everywhere we go, we have a big backpack full of insecurities, and then it comes out in our conversations. We deal with people like, oh, I gotta go.
Pride. I don't want to get hurt again.
Yeah.
God. But what is it showing you? This is why I said, if we're not offending anybody, we're literally perfect. Because we're perfect because we're able to sit back here and overcome all those insecurities
In us.
so that we can be pure, to have a pure consciousness towards the people around us. Because the thing is this, the Most High brings different people in our life
To expose us.
to expose deficiencies in you.
Yeah.
That's why the Most High got you with the man you got. That's why the Most High got you with brothers that you with. Because those men bring out the very worst in you. So that you can face it, deal with what that spirit is bringing out of you, and let that go. And replace that devilish coping mechanism with the spiritual coping mechanism. And that is a key component to learning how to properly communicate and how to not offend the people around
Can I
us.
say one thing? I love the topic you're bringing up. It's like what we would rather do is we would rather gloss over something or mask it, or we rather put makeup on it, or we rather hide it, or rather camouflage the problem than biblically process, solve, and eradicate and overcome the
And
problem.
you know what we do? And then we try to gloss over it, but we still offend people.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people will offend, and you know what we'll do? I'll buy you something to say I'm sorry. Here's a gift. I didn't mean it.
Gift for
Well,
you.
you did mean it. You're not changing that, but you're gonna spend cash to gloss over some shit you should be working on. Because it's easier to spend money than actually work on what's inside of you. People do it all the time.
That's spiritual
Here's a
stuff.
card, Hallmark card.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
we should be butts.
I had a bad day.
Except Valentine's.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, not Valentine's. This is the Hallmark card. It's like I had a bad day card. They sell those things. No, not get well soon. There's other cards that is just based upon you screwed up. You got to make it right. Have you ever been to those card places? They got a bunch of different reasons why to spend $10 on a card. You buy flowers. Hey, I messed up. Sorry, babe. Oops. I'm trying to be better. There's be some animation on there to make it light.
It's a dog act. It's a dog act. Talking to a cat.
Yeah.
Cat act. I apologize. It is kind of
It's
fun.
something zany to make somebody chuckle, to loosen the fact that you were a dirtbag yesterday. But we do it all the time. We'll rather spend cash or something than actually deal with what's inside of you, to why you keep doing it. So he's telling you, our coping mechanisms, how we lie to ourselves, is devilish wisdom. Read on.
James chapter 3 verse 16. For where envy and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work.
There's confusion. Where all that strife is, where all that rudeness is, that negative, there's confusion inside of yourself. When there's that negative communication, when a person just can't positively communicate back and forth to you, there's confusion in an individual.
And the Most High says He's not the author of confusion.
Because the confusion is, you know what the confusion is? In a nutshell, the confusion is I'm projecting. The negative is really in me, but I'm going to impose it on you.
Yeah.
That's the confusion. Doesn't make sense. If you're negative, you need to work on yourself. But the confusion aspect is that we project our negative to other people, and we get mad that they don't deal with it and accept it. Our psychological foundation is backwards. We hurt the people that we love. We disrespect the people that we love. The people that are closest to us, we get the most angry at. How can you sit back here and tolerate brothers you see a couple hours a day, but you want to go ham on your rib right next to you that puts in all the work for you? Or your husband who's always there, you want to see the worst in him, and he's the one that's done the most for you.
Yeah.
You're the most angry at him, but you're cool with co-workers. And Jake, I'm cool with Jake. I find comfort in relaxation hanging out with Jake people.
Jake and Edomites.
But my husband, I gotta get out of here. I don't want to be around him. He's a bad guy. But the bad guy is the one who's putting up with your crap.
Yep. That's
the confusion. The men do it, women do it. It's insanity. Yes, sir?
Because in the back of your mind, you know they ain't going anywhere.
There's still confusion. So let me go venture out and have some fun over here and still be angry at this person. Our psychology is off. And this is the point. So keep going.
You know
So he says where that envy and that strife is confusion. It's confusion from the offending party. What you say?
You know why? Because I got a lot of missing assignments.
I know.
A person's behind on so many
You do with midterm time?
Is listen, man. You don't know what the hell's going on right now because you're behind 3 or 4 shows. You got 3 or 4 shows you're behind. You look at the new show like it's not making any sense. Why is everybody doing these things? They thought they were enemies. Have you missed like 3 or 4 shows, bro?
The plot changed, man.
The plot changed. It's a different season. Things have happened. Where the plot has moved on, bro.
Okay.
Well, I thought you would have killed him, but you did. Why are they hanging out together? Brother, why don't you catch up 3 or 4 episodes so we can get to right now?
That's an aspect of the confusion.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the confusion comes from how our mentality is confusing.
God.
Our mindset doesn't make sense.
How
We'll
we have
tear
a-
down and attack the people that are the most in our corner.
God.
And we'll give the benefit of the doubt to people that can give 2 craps about you. That's the confusion. That's that devilish understanding, because your devilish mind has told you that the person who loves you the most hates you.
And the funny part is
Because it's a protection mechanism. Instead of sitting back here and being humble, I don't want to be humble. I don't want to feel out of control.
God.
So I'm going to give myself to somebody else where I feel more in control of my circumstance. All I'm showing you, I don't want to get too much deeper in that, but our methods are chaotic. Our mindset is dysfunctional. And if we don't work on our dysfunctional mindset, we're going to keep hurting the people around us that love us the most. And the Most High eventually will take those people that love us as a reminder that you got to fix your shit. Because the thing is, we can't keep hurting people every day that we love and expect them to keep taking it. It ain't going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
Eventually, they won't be here. And the only person to blame is you.
People will divest.
And you can sit back and call them wicked, or you can sit back and look at yourself and say, I ran this person off because of my sickness.
And then when they leave, you want to be, hey, what's going on? Like, no, like, listen, man, I already bought this ticket. I don't like the show. I know what's in the show. I'll just stay back.
Yeah.
I'm going to put one scripture right here. On the top, you said, right here.
I'm with you.
Wisdom Psalm 9 and 14. Is it in there?
Yes, actually it is.
Okay, then never mind.
No, hold on.
Please don't.
I was. That's funny. I'm gonna double check, bro, because I might have glanced over it, bro. Let me see. No.
Okay.
Everything's okay, man.
This is the last part you said. The last part you said.
You're good, man.
All right, Wisdom of Solomon 9:14, and I'm not gonna make it long.
Somebody get that Wisdom of Solomon 9:14.
God. Wisdom of Solomon to the 9 verse 14. For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable.
So most of us are 90% negative when it comes to how we think. Our thoughts are naturally miserable because we're into our flesh and we're living in the past and we got all kind of problems going on and we don't talk and we don't filter, we don't study. So our bad spiritual hygiene equates to us having miserable thoughts.
What's your equation is having bad communication.
God.
The bad communication comes from all that baggage on the inside that doesn't get worked on. Keep going.
Read on.
And our devices are but uncertain.
That means my approach is not going to make sense. Our approach to things is not uncertain. It's not going to. It's probably not.
Because it's not vetted by counsel. That's what I'm saying. The multitude of counselors are saying. There has to be somebody vetting your thoughts, filtering your thoughts, filtering your intentions, filtering your MO.
Yeah.
Okay, you done with that verse?
That's it.
What I need to go to is we finished with let's finish up James.
James chapter 3 and verse 17. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated.
So he says, but if you're operating in the wisdom of Christ, he says the right mindset is pure, meaning I'm able to see the good in the person. I can look past the offenses. I can look past the negativity. I can look past a person's deficiency. The problem is, it's very hard to help rehabilitate somebody if every day I'm reacting to a person's deficiency. If a person is applying wisdom the right way, it's pure. I can still see the good in somebody, even though there's countless issues around that person also. But it takes a pure mind to see the good when there's a bunch of filth around it. That's how you have to practice a pure mindset. Okay? But the problem is, a man cleaves according to his light. He reacts based off what's inside of them.
God.
If your spidey senses are tingling when you see people that are full of crap, why do you think that is? Why are you so keen and in tune to seeing the bullshit people? Does anybody know that answer to that question? Because there's a lot of bullshit in you. How about that? That's why your senses are sharp to see bullshit. Because your senses are heightened because you're pretty elite in your bullshit.
I can tell the thief.
Yeah. Listen, I can see the dirt. Listen, if you can see negative, because that negative connects to you. That's the truth. That is the damn truth. If you can sit back here and see this person and see all this negative, because that negative is connecting to you. That means you got too much of that devilish wisdom in you. He said we're supposed to have the ability to be pure of heart, to see the good in people. And a person's negative shouldn't vex you as much as it does us. If this is about rehabilitation, if this is about showing love to your people, if this is about doing whatever you can to be as effective as you can for your people, then this is the type of wisdom we have to practice holding on to. Read on.
But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable.
Then peaceable. You know what? Being around people, you're not going to get me to come out of a peaceable mindset. If I'm going to be a good counselor, if I'm going to be a good communicator, I have to always be in a peaceable spirit. To be peaceable, that means I'm not susceptible to reacting to my environment in a negative way. I practice not letting my surroundings and my circumstances change my perception in my life. Read on.
Then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated.
I'm easy to be entreated when I'm not easily aggravated. I have to learn to have a thicker skin spiritually if I'm going to be on the road to being that perfect man. If I'm going to be on the road to bridling my body, you have to bridle all of these carnal deficiencies in order for you to be easily entreated. That means you're not easily aggravated. To be easily entreated, that means I'm easily to be engaged with people. And how I feel doesn't change or dictate how I communicate with people.
Is that spiritual thickness, meekness?
Yeah. It's meekness, it's mercy, it's love, it's meekness to be entreated. It's all that. Because you know what? It doesn't matter if I told a person 5, 10, 15 times. Does it change how I entreat you? A lot of times, our temperament is based upon how many times I told you something.
Yeah.
That means you're not really being a good guy, man. So my attitude changes because I told you 3 times. Now on number 4, I'm this mad. That means you're not easily to be entreated.
You got a strike system now.
That's not good. 3 strikes and you're out. That's not going to work, man. That means where is your patience? Moses said, "Forgive thy brother 70 times 7." Whether a person listens or gets it or not doesn't change. Shouldn't change how you look at them or how you feel. Why is another person's rebellion making you mad? Why?
So what you're saying is, because I'm like in my chair, like, oh my gosh. So is it okay? Yes, Macaulay.
Yeah, Macaulay.
More like, don't, like, Homer Simpson. Anyway, so if we are spiritually weak in these aspects, is it okay to rehearse the righteous act by, I hate to say faking, but I don't even know what other
Oh
way to put it.
man.
Like, because if it's not something that comes naturally, and your spidey senses are tingling when you see the negative that you have another person, what else can you do but fake it until it becomes natural?
Or just go at you. Because faking it still gets you from running to deal with the issue. He's gonna smile. I'm not gonna be negative today. I get what you're saying, but people will say that. If I say that, I'm putting people off. I'm getting people off the hook. I'll just fake it.
Right.
Because you don't know how many fake ass, Israelites walk around here faking it until they make it.
Right.
That is a real thing, and that's not a good thing for Israel to hold on to. I'd rather sit back here and I get the question you're asking.
Right.
Instead of sitting back here and just being negative and just reacting negative, I can say this. I've seen people who are fighting what's inside of them, and it's all in their face. But at least they're trying to fight it. And I've seen people sit back and go like, I've seen people like, you can see they're just fighting to push back the neck. You want to say something, be like, okay. Now a person, if they're sharp enough, they'll see they're trying to fight. They're trying to fight. Give them that space to work that out. That's if the other person has a lick of wisdom to it. They'll see that they're trying. What you doing? You'll be like being like them Joe Jackson. What kind of face you got on you? Anyway, next time. But that's not how you're supposed to react. How we're supposed to react is when you see a person trying to fight, not give in to their ways. Give them that space to fight through it. But I can tell you this: the way to solve those issues, the answer isn't how you react when it happens. You got to prep leading up to that. A person has to be studying about these issues in themselves before you're put on the spotlight to fight it. You got to. That's what talks about having the full armor of the Most High on. Because if you're just trying to rehearse it like right on cue, it's not going to work, man. You got to be conscious that this is an issue with me, and I'm working on that throughout the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then when it happens, you're prepared. Too many of us, we're just walking around floating. Oh, Lord, a lot of them. And then we're reacting negative shit, and we're like, I don't know why I reacted that way. Because you didn't prepare. You don't work on yourself at all until you're in the midst of a situation. Then you want to react, or you want to leave, you want to do something drastic. Yeah. The only way you fix it, you got to prep leading up to the situations. Listen, Scripture says, study to show thyself what? Approved to the Most High. You're prepared because you study. You're prepared because you put the work in. Practice makes what? There you go. What you gonna say that way? I'm sorry, man.
Oh, I was just gonna say this. You're talking about basically taking people personally.
Yeah,
Taking
but
people
but
personal.
but if I have an issue with taking people personal, I gotta be studying about not doing it leading up to the next time I'm confronted with taking a person personal.
So it's about expecting or anticipating these
If
scenarios.
you did it 15 times already, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna happen 16.
You got me. You got me that time.
Listen, come on, it's gonna happen again.
It's gonna happen.
So know these things are inside of you and work on it. If you have a quitting spirit and you've quit a couple times, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna want to quit again. This is not rocket science.
I don't know where this came from.
Like, yeah, you do. You've been a quitter your whole life.
God.
So let's not act like, oh, I don't know where that spirit just came out of me. What are you talking about? This is where the not lying thing is important. A lot of times we lie ourselves into being in this fantasy land versus being real with what's inside of us. That makes sense? Okay. Where are we at in James, sir? So the pure wisdom is the easily being entreated, meaning to not let negative situations easily rattle us. Read on.
All right, bro.
Full of mercy and good fruit, without partiality.
Without partiality. A lot of times we judge partial. A lot of times we judge partial based on our experiences. And we don't give people clean slates. Well, let's keep going, sir.
Con, without partiality and without hypocrisy.
Con, but a lot of times our negative is full of partiality and full of hypocrisy. Because we're choosing what we're comfortable with versus looking at things with a blank slate, with a clean slate. Our partiality is based upon our own experiences of being hurt. Now we judge different based on what we went through. That makes sense?
Con.
Okay.
Verse 18.
Hey, chilling. Taking his time. It's nighttime, bro. You gotta get out, man. You kind of fall behind the group, man.
Verse 18.
He was juice boxing. I get it, keep going,
And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace.
But do you understand the theme of this and how our communication is based upon what's inside of us and how well we've tackled what's inside of us that gets us to act the way we act? Okay? Next verse. This is verse 2. We were supposed to do more, but I don't know. It's already 9:30, man. I was flying. Let's do Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha. 27. Verse 7 and verse 5.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 27 and verse 7. You ready?
I am ready. No. I'm not ready. Sorry. Yeah, read it.
Praise no man before thou hearest him speak, for this is the trial of men.
He says, praise no man before you hear a person speak. Because that's how you'll know what kind of character of a man he is. How well he can keep his control. How well a person can control his emotions, control his temperament, control his outlook. He says that's the trial of a man, how you speak. And that just means how you control your emotions. How well do you not let people around you affect your spiritual productivity? Okay, that is a form of our trial. Okay, the other form of our trial is verse 3. I said verse 5. I meant verse. Well, no, verse 3. No, it is verse 5. I'm sorry, it is verse 5. It's 7 and 5.
Verse 5. The furnace proveth the potter's vessel.
The heat, the pressure proves what caliber of pot that was made. Okay, read on.
So the trial of man is in his reasoning.
The test of a man is in how his reasoning is. How pure is his reasoning? Is this man's reasoning defiled? Is it partial? Is there hypocrisy in his reasoning? Or is his conscience pure? This is what's determined based off of how a person communicates. And to be specific, how a person communicates with different type of people around you. Because you can mask your negative around a certain type of person that you're comfortable with. It's hard to mask who you really are around all different sorts of people. It's hard to hide what's really in you around all these different people that kind of rub you the wrong way, and they're opposite, and their presence brings out certain things in you. But how the Most High tests us is how we process things, how partial we are we hypocrites, how we react to other people, how we think, how we process things, and how we communicate. This is how the Most High judges where we are in our spirit. Okay? Let that go and go to, you got something down here?
No.
Okay, go to Ecclesiasticus 28 and verse 12.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 28 and verse 12. If thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of thy mouth.
We have the power to build people up or destroy them. And this is why it's so important that the Most High checks and analyzes our communication. Because as you guys continue to progress up in rank and position, people are going to start putting their lives in your hand. They're going to start putting their trust in your hand. They're going to sit back here and need your guidance and your strength. And part of being a wise leader is to be able to know how to communicate, how to control your emotions. Not to really, the truth, like the verse we read in Ecclesiastes 5 was about understanding the person you are. If you don't have a greater understanding of your brother, hell, of your wife, listen, if you don't have an understanding of the person you're dealing with, you're not even going to know how to properly communicate in the first place. Half our problem is we have a partial understanding of people, or we look at people with a slant because our opinion and our emotions and our weaknesses wrap too much into our evaluation of people. So our response is corrupt based off of our slighted, corrupt mindset about the person. So what the Most High is like, listen, we're judged on how we look at people, how we measure people, how much work we put into understanding people, how well do you give people the benefit of the doubt. That's how we're getting looked at. Okay? And based off how well we do that, will determine how well we communicate, how well we can build somebody up. Because I tell you this, being a teacher, reading in Ecclesiastes, it says to get the love of the congregation. How do you get the love of the congregation if you can't win them? If you can't understand them? If you can't understand them, you're not going to be able to sit back here and communicate with them. You're not going to be able to build them up. You're not going to be able to teach them if you don't understand them. But to properly understand them, you can't have a lot of self-baggage in you. Because your self-baggage is going to mess up your perception of the person that you're dealing with.
Because dealing with your own issues and looking at situations,
you're looking at it jacked up.
They call it, you have to decompartmentalize.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to leave situations and look at it in an objective lens.
But you have to remove yourself out of the equation to look at a person clear.
I got to remove what I'm going through and what's in my heart from the situation so I can see it.
But most people can't do that. Most husbands can't do that. Most wives can't do that. And they choose not to learn how to do it. Because to learn how to do it, you have to truly remove what's inside of you.
I had to stop
to have a clear perspective of somebody else. Get your hand up.
Oh, no, I just made a word. I'm sorry to get.
I made a word up, Mike?
Well, not made, just used it. I thought it fit well.
No.
That's what it was. The word was good because it tickled you, you know what I'm saying?
I just saw a movement and I was just,
Oh, no.
No, but what we do, we inject ourselves in the situation versus not making it about us. That's the practice.
Yeah.
Just kind of step back and not make it about me.
And that's what it takes to be a good communicator. That's what it takes to be a good teacher. That's what it takes to be a good brother. Can you not make it about you? Can you detach whatever isms you got in you out of you?
Yeah.
To give another person a clean slate. You can't give a person a clean slate unless there's a clean slate in you. Yeah. Unless your vessel is. Remember I talked about those 7 demons that get kicked out. It says when they leave and then that one gets kicked out, and it says that the house is swept and clean.
And garnished. Yeah.
Your house has to be swept, clean, and garnished for you to see somebody in a clear, positive light. You can't have 7 demons in you and you're going to give people clear counsel. You're going to get some garbage counsel and you're going to get some partial counsel if what's inside of you isn't clean. Does that make sense?
That's like being mad at my significant other, and then counseling about somebody else's significant other.
Yeah.
You
just gotta trust. You just gotta trust her, brother. But you don't trust the one at your house. You gotta you gotta look at her in a good outlook. Well, you gotta do it at the house first.
Yeah.
Can you work on you first? You gotta be patient, brother. You gotta be patient at your house. I'm telling you, there's a lot of hypocrisy in all of us, and these verses just letting us know we have a lot of work to do.
And it shows.
This is nobody saying anybody else no damn level. This is hard damn work. That's why I said if we're going to be perfect, then nobody should be getting offended anywhere.
And that
but there's a whole lot of damn offenses going on. There's a lot of people crying at home. There's a lot of people pissed off. There's a lot of work to do.
And that perfection talking about being complete. And being complete is talking about maturity.
God.
So Israel has to fight to become more mature.
Let's go. Let's go to James chapter 1, verse 26 and 27.
James chapter 1 and verse 26. If any man among you seem to be religious.
Listen, if anybody around here seems to be spiritual, seems to be pro-Bible, seems to be into biblical history. If there's any biblical, who out here are biblical historians or claim to be?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, that's good enough for me. If we're amateur biblical historians, we're claiming to be religious. Read on.
And bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is vain.
He's showing you if we can't live this self-control, then everything we're saying is crap. He said we got to live what we say. We got to live what we do. He said if we're sitting back here and teaching the Bible and we don't know how to control how we communicate, control how we react, then everything we're saying is vain. It's useless. It's worthless. That's what it's saying. What we're saying is worthless. It's not that it's not true. But what good am I if I can't show a person how to change? If I can't show self-control, then is my teaching method really working? What kind of a teacher are you if you can't control how you communicate?
You're heresies.
We're hypocritical.
What was they saying?
Come. So what he's saying is our communication better tighten up. If I can't bridle my emotions, if I can't bridle how I communicate, and if I can't fight to be in control of how I feel, then what ends up happening is all my words are pretty much for naught. What people don't understand, it's not necessarily about how many breakdowns you know. It's about how well you live it. There's a verse that says it's better that a person knows little but lives righteously than knows a lot but doesn't follow the law, doesn't follow the Most High. I read it today and it was in Apocrypha somewhere. But it's better to know a little bit but live what you say than know a lot and don't live what you say. And it's saying the same thing here. So read verse 26 again. What you gonna say, At? You said something?
What are you talking about? Proverbs 19 and 1?
No, it's in the Apocrypha.
Oh, okay.
But read that. Read verse 26 again. If y'all find it in the Apocrypha, I'm cool. Pull it. I wanted to do that, but I just can't remember where it was. But read that, sir.
James chapter 1 and verse 26. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain.
Because it's not working for you. Listen, we're supposed to be able to sit back here and live it, and it works for us. That's what application is. So he's saying we got to live what we're saying, be doers of the word and not hearers only. Okay? Read on. Oh, yeah,
I was thinking that keeps bringing up hypocrite. Proverbs chapter 11 and 9 says it's about a hypocrite. And with his mouth he destroyeth his brother.
Because your actions don't match your words.
Right. And you do damage with that.
And you do a lot of damage when your actions don't match your words. And to answer your question about it's being in the fire consistently, but it's really accepting the fire. It's accepting the change. Because most of us don't accept the change. It's easy to dish it out, but it's very hard to live it. Let's keep going.
James chapter 1 and verse 27. Pure religion and undefiled before the Most High and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Listen, can I sit back here and do the dirty jobs, the difficult taxing jobs, the jobs that pull on your emotion, the jobs that could affect you in a negative way? This is what people don't want to accept. Is that some brothers that you teach, they're very pleasant and easy to deal with. Other people aren't so much. Can you deal with those fatherless ones that are making it hard on you? That makes you work? That makes you really apply patience? That makes you really apply long suffering and mercy? Because those are the fatherless ones. The fatherless ones are the hardest ones to win. Is that an unreasonable statement to say? When you're sitting back here and developing a fatherless child, that person's got so many guard blocks and shields. It takes years to get that person to trust him. He said we're supposed to sit back here and deal with the fatherless and the broken-hearted widows, the ones who've been hurt, the ones whose faith in the Most High have been shaken. And can you absorb all that sadness? Absorb all that self-will? And it says, a widow's in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted. Can you sit back here and still be pure around the most hurt people around you? Because as we know, we talked about earlier, the ones who are hurt the most, what do? They attack the most. A wounded animal does what? You get close to a dog that got hit by a car, what's going to happen? You might get bit. The people that are wounded are going to tear back and fight back at you the most. And the ones that fight back at you the most, you have to have the most meekness in order to remain unspotted from these interactions, to be unspotted from working with these people. Because the problem with I got you. But the problem with teaching sometimes is, can you experience multiple generations of people and not let the multiple generations of their sicknesses weaken you, sour you, make you bitter? Oh, good. You know what? I'm telling you, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. I love the Most High. I love the Most High. The Most High is it. And then 2 weeks later, he ain't there. All the people with everything they say things, but they don't live it. But can you remain unspotted through the entire experience? This is what he's expecting from us.
Which is endurance.
But it's endurance. Come.
He that endures to the end, the same should be saved.
Yes.
What has to endure to the end? My ability to deal with my people.
But that's based and predicated on not taking them personal.
But it's bigger than just the Edomites there. The Edomites are coming. It's bigger than the
Edomites
coming.
That's the least of my problems.
It's bigger than the
The
Edomites
red
coming.
coats are coming out.
Yeah.
This guy's pouring Revere out. The Edomites are coming!
But it's
awesome.
You got to deal with your own people. Your own people right there.
Listen, the niggas is coming.
The
Because
niggas
they
is
are.
coming.
I hate to say it online, but they're here. I love my people. I'm just saying, Israel has had some real isms to them,
Yeah.
Israel's coming, and can you deal with them? Can you deal with all those schisms and flaws and the little psycho here, the unstable here, the angry here, the throw it off here?
Somebody drop. Somebody drop.
These are all facts, right? So, can you remain unspotted and deal with the sickest of the sick people and still come out with a pure outlook and be at peace with what you're doing with the pure conscience? That's what we're shooting for.
What works for me on a personal level is just, I always try to look at a person.
Tell everybody online.
What they try to do that's offensive, and I try my best to remember, in any way, have I been the same person?
That's the way.
It always kills like the intensity of that. Like, you know what? I can remember a situation where I was that guy.
Yeah.
Or if you're not that guy, then you gotta sit here and do more Bible study.
You gotta read the hell out of the Bible, bro.
But
everything that you're saying is it's and this is why we counsel. This is why we communicate with one another to help continuing to develop strategies on how to still see the good in people after you've been let down, because that is how we maintain our communication to be pure, our spirit to be pure, our conscience towards the Most High to be pure, because those are the things He expects from us. Those are demands. Those are not just options. So, are we done? Yeah, we are done with that. Let that go and go to Ephesians chapter 4 and 29.
Was that scripture in Sirach 19 and 24?
What? Yeah, Yeshaya, your hand was up too. What was your hand up, sir?
Yeah, I had that scripture that you were talking about.
What was it at?
It was Ecclesiastes chapter 19, verse 24.
Yeah, then that was what I made out this year. Let me
Send it in text.
You know what? You see, it was down, man. I had so. Well, there's a lot of text. I'm sorry. I was in the zone, bro. Ecclesiastes what again?
It was Ecclesiastes 19 and 24.
Let me make sure. I'm pretty sure it is, y'all. I just got to proofread a little bit.
Thank you for that. I have to look for that scripture for...
This one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it. Good. Oh, okay. You got something else. Okay. Okay. Ephesus man. Ephesus man. Okay. So give me Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes chapter 19, verse 24. He that hath small understanding and feareth the Most High is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High.
That's a humble thing. And this is why when you read we read it earlier in James 3 about how everybody wants to be the head, but you gotta realize there's more pressure on the head. Because the more knowledge you have, the more the Most High expects you to operate at a certain level. And the more you understand and learn, the more you're supposed to sit back and operate with more discipline, more spiritual consistency. So what the Most High is saying, the person with small understanding that has a fear of the Most High that stays in order is greater than the person that knows a whole bunch more but doesn't live it. It still shows you the importance of living what you're saying, living what you're learning. Because if you're not living what you're learning, you're not as potent as you think you are. Okay? We have to live what we're saying. So, thank you, sir. With that, yes, sir?
I'm glad, Brother Solomon.
Yeah, I'm glad. So let's get this Ephesians chapter 4, 29.
Ephesians 4, verse 29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth.
Listen, corrupt communication can't proceed out of our mouth. The way you eliminate that corrupt communication is to eliminate that corruptness inside of us, that corrupt outlook, that corrupt mentality, that insecureness, that strife in us, that envy in us. That's what has to be eliminated, that partiality in us. We eliminate that, the communication is more pure. Read on.
But that which is good to the use of edifying.
What our communication should be based upon is edifying and teaching. That is what we should predicate our mindset on. Can I practice consistently that my words should be about teaching? Now, if my words are going to be about teaching, what else has to be about teaching? My example has to be about teaching. My presence has to be about teaching a person a lesson. Not just talking down and condescending and yelling at somebody for not being somebody I expect them to be. I have to walk in and talk it. And I have to keep reminding myself it's about teaching. It's not about retaliating. It's about development, and it's not about reacting in frustration. It's about providing clarity and removing excuses from somebody. And that's where the mindset's got to be, more than sitting back here and lashing out on somebody. He says Most High is just trying to teach us how to communicate. What's the premise behind our communication? Okay? Read on.
But that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers.
The whole point of communication is to develop a person's spirit. That's it. If I understand that everything else is leaven, then I'll be okay. It's just about the lesson. Why did I gotta sit back and talk so loud? Why did I have to be so angry about it? Why did I have to put an extra word behind it? God damn it! What's that got to do with edify? What does that have to do with the edification? Nothing. That's me. I injected myself into it. Isn't that why the Most High didn't let Moses go into the kingdom? Because he injected himself into the correction. Right or wrong? Most High said, "Speak to the rock." What did Moses do? He spoke to it and he hit it. He injected himself into the picture, right? Because his emotion got the best of him. What are we supposed to be doing? It's supposed to be about the message. Can we make it about the message? Or do we want to put our 2 cents in? We want to filter our emotion in. That's how we do all of the time. And this is what Moses talking about. This is going to be about pure religion, being the pureness of this work. Then let's be pure. Let's eliminate ourselves out of the equation if we're trying to be perfect. Okay. Are we done with that verse? Yes, we are. Go to Matthew 5 and 37. Now listen, a lot of times in the midst of us learning how to consider communicating with people, in the midst of us learning how to not inject ourselves in the equation and to eliminate our emotion, a lot of times, sometimes we'll sit back here and be overly concerned with not stepping on toes and not offending people. What we have to understand is we're not supposed to be emotional, but we are supposed to be direct. And learning how to master the directness of communication while eliminating emotion is how we're supposed to communicate and be blameless in the eyes of the Most High in Christ. Because I have worked with and been around a lot of people that think being kind is communicating backdoor and sidewinding and talking all these different ways and communicating in a way to make you feel good and thinking that's how you get the message across to people.
That doesn't work either.
That doesn't work either. So we have to have the ability to not be emotional in our communication, but be direct in our communication. Because the word of the Most High, if you read in Hebrews chapter 4 and 12, the word of the Most High is quick, powerful. Somebody read it real quick.
Sharp like a two-edged sword.
Exactly. It ain't soft and beating around the bush and with the purpose of the word in the first place.
So an emotional nature communication is wrong.
Yep.
And then you're saying that what's the word for it? Not sympathetic.
Overly empathetic.
Over empathizing.
Let's just read this.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Read Hebrews 4 and 12. This is what the word was purely intended to do.
Apologetic.
Yes. But this is what the word was purely intended to be. This is how the word was supposed to be delivered to mankind. Read that.
Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12. For the word of the Most High is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword.
The word is supposed to be sharp. The word is supposed to be direct. The word's not supposed to beat around the bush. It's sharper than any two-edged sword. Read on.
Piercing, even to dividing asunder of soul and spirit.
So our words are supposed to cut. The information and the edification is supposed to cut and be direct. It's not supposed to be soft in its intention. The word's supposed to correct. It's supposed to be sharp, and it's supposed to be powerful. It's supposed to have an impact. Read on.
Even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow.
The word is supposed to get to the core of a person, to get to the core of a person's reasonings, their motivations. Read on.
and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart.
So the purpose of the word is to be direct. The problem is when we try to inject our emotion and our feelings on top of letting the word do what the word's going to do. And this is why the messenger has to sit back here and detach from all these feelings and being all blousy all the damn time. And let the word sit back here and do the work it's supposed to do.
That's true.
My opinion has nothing to do with what the Most High is trying to get us to see.
All right, so you're saying we don't need to inject ourselves in it.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly. I'm gonna inject my anger, my opinion, my frustration, my fear to lose.
Yep, my trauma.
My trauma. I can't teach the word trying to be the nice guy and being afraid to step on some toes. The word's gonna step on toes. I just gotta detach these emotions, the sentimental feelings, the pride, the anger. Yes, yes.
So would this also apply for a woman? How would a woman be able to execute this without coming off with a masculine spirit?
You know what the crazy thing is? It's still about letting the word do the talking. If a sister, and this is about sisters counseling sisters, but if sisters have issues, all you gotta do is quote the verse. We gotta be all rugged out. We're gonna cut people in the spirit. We don't need a bunch of women rolling like dudes. That wasn't the intention of what a woman was supposed to do. We don't gotta have women in councils getting other women in front, leading rest, and checking them and shemaing them. That was not what sisters do. Shemai, sister, I have rank. There ain't no rank among sisters. There's experience. And with the greater experience should bring forth greater counsel and greater understanding. But as the scripture says in other verses, how our words must be seasoned with salt. Having to learn how to... Because the crazy thing is this. If you're asking about how not to offend a person, it goes back to having a greater understanding of the person. If I have a greater understanding of the person, then I'll have a better way to relate this message to a person. A lot of times the offenses come with, I really don't understand you, and I'm just dropping verses. I'm just dropping information and I'm cutting you, and hey, the word, I'm just letting the word cut you. It's just the words talking, not me. Well, shit, can you put the work in to get to understand somebody first before you start rolling on somebody? That's an important element too, right? The point is understand, get to really understand a person, give them scriptures, but remove yourself emotionally out of the issue. This is why for me, if I'm angry, if I'm vexed, there's no counsel today. It's not going to happen. If I'm aggravated, I'm vexed, I'm not going to be no good with counseling. I'll be like this. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. The Most High serious. For real? Okay, yeah. Huh? You don't want to do that, huh? You can't be that guy, huh? That's what I'm saying. That's a real thing. So, where are we at? Hebrews 4:12 from the top again.
Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12. For the word of the Most High is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart.
So the word was always meant to be direct. So let's not quench the Most High's word by delivering it soft and delivering it apologetically. That was not the intention of the word. But you can sit back here and be direct and not be emotional behind it. You can be direct and let the word do the cutting and not be overly emotional or bullying behind it either. Read Matthew 5:37.
Matthew 5:37. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil.
So being direct is also about not playing games and being in the middle and not dealing with judgment, right and wrong. Right is right, wrong is wrong. When we're communicating, we need to fight to make sure we're clear in our communication. Because a lot of times, when you deal with people that aren't clear in their communication, that's also a sign of wickedness inside of them. You ever been around somebody and they can just never give you a straight answer? And so everything is suggestive and subtle, and there's wickedness there, man. Either I'm ashamed, or I'm bullshitting you, I'm lying to you. There's nothing straight ahead.
I'm evasive.
That is a perfect example of a person not to be around. If I can't just tell you the truth, then what am I hiding? Maybe I'm hiding something to get something from you. That's later on in class, which we will not get to tonight. But there's other elements when people are coming indirect and are giving you half answers and a portion of the counsels and a portion of the information. You're like, I'm getting mixed signals from talking to this person.
It's called lying by omission.
Con!
They don't want to say, I didn't lie to you.
I told you this, and this, but you knew exactly what you wanted to say, but you specifically chose not to. You omitted things so that you wouldn't be on the hook for it.
So it's a skill.
That is a skill. That is pure deceit. That is deceit. That is purest satanic
deception virtues.
God,
that's that earthly sensual.
Yeah, that's sensual as hell. That's the fine print. There's information in the fine print. That just don't bring it out to you. I gave you the paperwork, but I didn't read the fine print. What you gonna say?
No, so I call it tricky truth.
Tricky truth.
Tricky truth.
That's exactly what it is. There's a lot of tricky truth out here. But the point is, if you're getting the half answers and slanted communication, there's slanted communication because there's wickedness there. There's evil in that communication.
It's tricky.
That's why Christ said, listen, man, it's yes or no, man. Oh, wait, not that. Okay, I know. No, trick. Bam, 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 bam. No. What's that? Yeah. It was. No, it's not. What's that?
There's a lot of confused people in here.
Yeah, listen, I guess these are old and now. This is 80s and now. We got to at least bring it to like 95. And read the 95.
2006.
Yeah, 2006 is better, man. Because in the 90s, I got to get out of the 90s. Anyway, but if you're watching movies, you would know these sounds, these songs. Because I'm not really an 80s guy. I didn't remember all these. I was listening to Beastie Boys back then, bro. I was listening to Michael Jackson. I wasn't listening to all that Beastie Boys stuff. Anyway, when you're young, you don't listen to hip hop. You listen to the top 40 and stuff.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem out here.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem on Saturday, bro. It was lit.
That's AJ and Free.
No, that's later, bro. That's like 15 years later, bro. AJ and Free. Anyway,
that was
older, man. Anyway. Okay, y'all. Okay, where we at, man? We finished Matthew 5 and 37. Tricky. Let's go to Proverbs 28 and 1. Yeah, that's it. It's in the head. He started that one. I didn't try to do that act. Well, it was really Don Wam's part that was the tricky act. It's good stuff.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready now, sir.
Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 1 reads.
Hey, can you project to the crowd, sir?
Yeah.
Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 1 reads, the wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion.
So he's telling you these are the attributes you're supposed to have while you're communicating the truth. Direct yes or no answers. All this stuff in the middle is wickedness. All these different shades of gray. You got brothers talking to you in shades of gray, man. There's negative there. It's either yes or no, good or bad. You get all that gray talk, man, just get away from it. And he's also saying a righteous person, if we're about right and wrong, there's a boldness to it. But boldness more in the frame of mind of being courageous. Having a desire for standing up for what's right, regardless of what you're going to lose out the deal. Because a lot of times, communication is changed and people talk differently to people because they're afraid to lose that person. if we're really about integrity, if we're really about righteousness, then I have to be willing to lose the people I'm dealing with. If I really love them, I'll tell them the truth, straight, no chaser. And if they come back around or leave, it's okay. But I can't lie to people to keep them. Because that's what people do also. They give them half-truths. They operate in the gray to keep you. Versus having faith that if the Most High, I do lose somebody for setting up for what's right, the Most High will send somebody else who's still pursuing truth and righteousness. So when we're dealing with being a teacher, dealing with a leader of your family, do you love your wife enough to tell her the truth? Do you have the courage to tell a brother where he's off? Are you strong mentally enough to not be afraid to lose and to hold firm with your integrity? Because your integrity is what matters over anything. Okay? Okay, let that verse go. And go to 2 Corinthians chapter 13.
Verse what?
13 and 10, sir. Give me 1 second. 2 Corinthians 13 and 10. Get that.
God, 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 10.
So we just talked about how there's got to be a boldness when we communicate. And that boldness is dealing with courage. The courage to stand up and stick to what's right, regardless of what you might lose out of this. This is why it's so important to remove yourself out of the equation. A lot of times we counsel for ourselves, for our benefit. But when we do that, we remove the message of the Most High being in its purest form. We're only messengers. We're messengers, and we're supposed to relay the message to the people in its purest form, us not included. Even if the message means I might die, or I might lose something that I care about. Because what was the prophets having to do? The prophets were delivering a lot of damn bad news to kings. How do you think you think these kings want to hear that bad news?
No. Scripture said goodness was fattening the bones.
God.
So they weren't doing that.
Well, I'm going to say this. Listen, prophets were being thrown in jail for speaking the truth. Prophets were getting killed for speaking the truth. You don't think they knew they was going to get thrown in jail? But they still had to deliver the message. The message mattered, not how they felt or what they was going to get out the deal. And this is how we have to communicate. Can we communicate and detach our own self-interest from the communication? That's how we show the Most High we're serious about serving Him. You can't be afraid to lose something in Christ's name for what's right. It's another way that He determines where our consciousness is at with Him. How much we prefer Him over our own personal advantages. I'm telling you, a lot of people start manipulating their words because they don't want to lose their money. All this Bible stuff is cool until you lose a couple $1,000 a month in your pocket. How about that? You gonna be bold about teaching the truth when this person might leave? It might your car note's gone. Your lights getting cut off. You gonna be real about the truth or not? These are real questions. You gonna be real. You gonna be real about standing up for what's right when this person that's really helping you in the camp, he's a really important piece of the camp. You gonna sit back and be about honor, or you gonna be about securing the bag? These are the moral questions the Most High is looking at us when we have to deal with standing up for what's right and being direct. Anyway, continue.
God, 2 Corinthians 13 verse 10. Therefore I write these things being absent, lest being present I should use sharpness.
He said, I'm writing a letter, but if I was present, I'd be going at your ass about this. I'd be going right direct with you. He said, in the letter, you ain't gonna feel the same impact as if I'm right in front of your face telling you what you got to change to please the Heavenly Father. Paul is explaining the directness and sharpness required to deliver the Most High's message. But in all that directness and sharpness has nothing to do with being emotional. And like Will Ferrell, loud noises! Because we think sharpness and direction is talking loud. Don't go there. I know you know what you're thinking. But it's not about talking loud and being tough and acting angry and rolling like I'm a tough guy. It's about directing and establishing the sharpness of the word and standing up for what's right. It has nothing to do with octaves and loudness and how intimidating a person might try to act like they are. Intimidation has nothing to do with delivering a sharp message, a direct message. He's teaching us how to teach. He's teaching us how to communicate. But everything has nothing to do with your way. Your way means nothing. Can you remove your way and make this message pure, clean, unfiltered? Come on. So let's keep going. Read it from the top, verse 10.
Come. 2 Corinthians 13, verse 10. Therefore I write these things, being absent, lest being present I should use sharpness, according to the power which the Most High hath given me to edification.
Listen, the sharpness is still to edify. The sharpness is not about me being angry. The message has to be relayed in a sharp tone to establish urgency and seriousness. And this is why it talks about in other verses about how leaders have to be grave, serious, chiseled. And the message has to match that grave mindset. And that has nothing to do with your opinion and how you look at things. If you want if you want people to listen, remove yourself from the equation and make it about the message and stop making it about you and how people respond to you, because you don't matter. The message matters. And if the quicker we learn that the message matters, people will listen more. Because it doesn't matter how you say it, but can you be consistent? Can you live the message? And can you relay the message? That's all that matters. That's all the Most High is looking at you. Read on.
Come. It says.
So read it from the top again. Let's read it from the top.
Come. Therefore I write these things, being absent, lest being present I should use sharpness, according to the power which the Most High had given me to edification, and not to destruction.
We're supposed to be direct, not to hurt you, but to develop you. That direct nature, it allows a person a chance to digest this information in its purest form. But being emotional or being overly suggestive and watering down the message, both extremes are off. Both extremes are sin. Shalom, brother. Both extremes are sin. Eliminate your opinion and just make it about the teacher. Let that verse go. And now we're going to go to Luke 19 and 21.
Luke chapter 19, verse 21.
Read that.
For I fear thee, because thou art an austere man.
Christ was an austere man. Austere means strict, stern, rigid. Listen, because that's what the message is. The message is strict. The message is rigid. If anybody sits back here and thinks that the gospel is light and easy, you have another thing coming. Because the way the Christian church teaches you is that Christianity is a soft man's religion. It's a soft man's belief. To sit back here and serve Christ is very difficult and very challenging. Because you have to sit back here and take on all the law, all the principles of the law, and then tack that on top of how Christ lived. In order to be the living embodiment of living like Christ, you have to take on his personality, that austereness, that disciplined nature, that serious mindset. And this is how the message should be relayed. And this is how our actions should show forth. This is how we have to carry ourselves. You understand? The more serious we are, the more direct we are, the better we are. And there's less emotion filtered in the situation. What you gonna say?
And the seriousness is there because the message matters.
Mm-hmm.
This message is paramount. This message, you're emphasizing the message with the serious. The serious nature is emphasizing and stressing the message.
Because change is serious.
It's not because you got a personality problem.
Exactly.
It's because, listen, you got to take the words of Christ serious.
In order to make these real, because it takes a lot of seriousness to change. Think about the work you have to go through to sit back here and manfully change your life, like the scripture says in 2 Matthew. How much work it takes to adjust
something, to get past an issue, or to even to start to make ground an issue.
It takes a real serious nature to pull that off.
That's why austere also means rigid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very stiff.
Yeah, because that's what it takes to make changes. You can't be lax. You can't be lackadaisical and see change in your life.
I'm gonna fix it.
It ain't gonna happen, bro.
I'm gonna fix it. No, you're not.
But the austereness is more about not the words. It's about the character. It's about how you carry yourself, and how we carry ourselves. How we carry ourselves is the greatest teacher. How we carry ourselves and the example we show for the people around us is more important than a bunch of talk and a bunch of emotional rhetoric. Live it, and you'll get more people to follow. Let it go. Now we're going to go to Romans chapter 15, verse 1. I'm trying to get as many as we can. It's getting late. Verse 1 through 3. Yep, I'm ready, sir.
Romans 15 and verse 1. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves.
Listen, we're supposed to. You got it, Mark? We're supposed to sit back here and bear the infirmities of the weak, deal with each other's problems, not let their problems affect us, and still be able to teach and edify. Because it's not about us. Can we learn how to not sit back and let other people's issues affect us and still make it about the teaching? Still make it about development? Or we're going to sit back here and have to impose our will in an issue?
And that was Moses' entire war.
Huh?
That was the war of Moses.
Of all leadership, shit.
Listen, all leadership. I'm just saying, even in the Old Testament, that was the emphasis. He was living that. Mm-hmm. He was embodying that level of meekness.
Can you deliver the message? Can you deliver the message and just make it about the message? How well can you do it and not to please yourself? Read on.
Romans 15 verse 2. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification.
But the pleasing his neighbor is making sure your neighbor is developed. Your brother, your family, can you make it about their development and not about how hard you have to work to get them developed? Can you make it about their development and not how inconvenienced you are in the process of developing them? The only thing that matters is the good of your neighbor, the edification and the growth of your neighbor, not how hard you had to work to get them taught. That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that this brother or this sister has gotten better. That's all that matters. And once you really get to the pure process of chasing Christ, the only thing that matters is another person's spiritual results. Whatever toll it took on you, doesn't matter because you're a servant too. Read on.
Romans 15 verse 3. For even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproached thee fell on me.
All Christ got was some damn oil on his feet. He got his feet washed, he got some oil out, and a whole bunch of giving. That was it. That was the lesson. Can you make it about you and get little to nothing in return? And be okay with that. And be okay with that premise in your life.
You said make it about you.
No, not make it about you. Okay, if I said it wrong, can you make it about the teaching, make it about the people, and get little to nothing going back to you.
Stop injecting my needs.
And stop injecting your needs in the midst of teaching, in the midst of counseling, in the midst of dealing with issues. I'm gonna say this. It says, is there a difference between serious and unapproachable? Yeah. I can be serious and still be approachable at the same time. I can sit back here and be serious about the message, but be approachable about everything else.
Isn't that unapproachable like intimidation, right?
Well, because unapproachable is a person that doesn't want to listen. And is not willing to listen, not willing to understand. But I can understand what I can understand what you're going through and still teach you the scriptures and still show. Listen, a lot of times people want to counsel and want to tell you about their weakness and say, man, yeah, I need this weed to calm me down. But I can listen to you and I can understand what you're saying.
I can't laugh.
But that don't mean I'm going to sit back here and say, yeah, I understand. I know it's a battle. I got to sit back and say that answer is wickedness. That solution is negative. So, I'm not going to co-sign your justification to get high because that's what you're used to doing. So I can be serious about not budging with right and wrong, but be approachable enough to listen. The problem is people think you're approachable when you coincide and you co-sign their weakness.
Which is not the scripture.
Because this is what the second phase of the class was going to be about. It was going to be about the fact that people want to be lied to. All the scriptures we talk about is about being direct and the sharpness of the word. But the problem with this great message is that people want to be lied to. They want to be told smooth things. Israel has itching ears. You know what that means? I didn't hear that. I have selective hearing.
Yeah.
I pick and choose what I want to give myself to. Instead of listening to all the change I got to do and the sharpness of the word, I want to party with my friends. I want to get away. Like the damn Southwestern airline commercial is. That's what we want to do. We want to get get away. We want to get the hell away. We want to hear counsel about escaping the battle. And when we don't sit back here and feed the escape, now we're unapproachable. That's BS. That's the wickedness that Israel got. And that's where the disconnect between embracing a spiritual lifestyle and a person that just wants to feed the flesh, that's where it comes clashing. We can be direct and we can still listen. We can be understanding but still not budge. Isn't that what Christ says? Is that what the scripture says? So, and that's part of the breakdown too, sir. Slash. So listen, we're going to sit back and finish the first part because there's no way we're going to be able to get to the second part. Maybe we'll do it next week. But this is the issue that we have with Israel. We're not supposed to please ourselves. We're supposed to detach our emotions and feelings from the message. But then once that happens, now it's on the other party to listen. Now it's on the party to learn how to appreciate the message, how it's being delivered. But the crazy thing is, once we remove ourselves, now you can really see where a person's heart is at. And this is why it's so important that we're the example, so that now when a person rejects Christ, you know they rejected Christ. And you did everything in your power to be blameless. So now, when they reject Christ, we can fucking wipe the dust off your feet and step. And that's the point. Now you're justified to move on. When you've done everything you can to be an example, and they still choose the world, they still choose Barabbas, then let them have Barabbas.
Yep.
And you did everything you can. You can go to sleep at night saying, I did everything I can. This person just didn't want to change. We don't got to sit back here and tolerate people that just want to serve Satan and live their life. And that's not meekness. That's not love. The love is, listen, I do everything in my can to change, to be the example, so that the message is pure. And my weakness has not been shown in the midst of this message being brought to you. Once I did that, you don't want it to go. And see who else is going to do that crap and tolerate your crap. And that's when you know the Most High will send you a better one than them. than the one that's about to bounce. Because that's the truth. When you do everything you can in your power to be the example and they still spit in your face, then you know what? Let them kick rocks and the Most High will send you another one and you do it again. Then you'll be smiling in the pictures. Then you'll smile with the next one. And then you'll be okay. And those are the facts. This ain't a religion. This ain't religious talk. It's about being an example, be on point, and then put the ball in their court. And if they want to change, bet. If they don't, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway.
It's the truth.
That's how you do it.
Does it explain Romans 14?
Step-by-step book with that. What's you going to say?
Romans 14 and 13? On your point?
Romans 14 and 13. Yeah. Let's do that. Romans 14, 13.
Romans 14 and 13 says, let us not therefore judge one another anymore, but judge this rather.
So to judge, what that means is let's not see the worst in each other. Because that's what judging is. Judging, because I'm seeing the worst in my brother or my sister. And because I see the worst in you, I'm not going to provide the best example I can to help you. Because that's our nature, is to quit on each other without being the best we can be first. And he's like, that's not how we're supposed to act. If I got a person who's rebellious, then let me sit back and bust my tail to be a good example so that it gives this person every opportunity to change. Let me not be the reason they don't change. So read on.
But judge this rather, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way.
We have to make sure our conduct isn't the reason why a person can't change. Our mistakes and the weaknesses we don't deal with isn't a reason why a person doesn't make those changes to please the Most High in Christ. That's the focus. But once you remove all those stumbling blocks, it's now on the other person. Now, if you don't want to change, I don't want to tell you. You don't want to come to class, you don't want to make adjustments, I don't know what to say. And that's how we stay justified in the Most High in Christ. Okay. Let that verse go. Just a few more, we're going to shut it down. Philippians 4 and 8. Somebody else give me Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 27, verse 11 and 12.
I got Ecclesiastes.
I got. You said 4 and 8, right?
Yes, sir.
Come. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8.
Read that.
Finally.
No.
Yeah, read that.
Come. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and there be any praise, think on these things. Roll verse 9.
No, that's all I want. What it's saying is all those good virtues is what we should be holding on to our mind, so that in turn our communication will match our thoughts. If we're thinking about positive and the pureness and the good and all the things around us, then that means if our vessel is clean and swept. And if our vessel is clean and swept, then our communication can match the fight and the cleaning and the maintenance that we're using on the inside and that we're applying on the inside. Right? Let that go and give me Ecclesiastes 27 and 11.
Come. Ecclesiastes chapter 27 and verse 11 reads, the discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom.
He says the discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom.
So a spiritual man should always be communicating and having conversations
about what we was reading in Philippians 4 and 8.
Come.
He says a wise man should be talking about the things he's thinking about, which is those pure thoughts, that pure outlook. Whatsoever is a virtue, that's what you should be thinking about. And if I'm thinking about virtuous concepts, then that's what my conversation should be about. And if my conversation is about that, then my conversation should be about edifying in those spiritual virtues. And that's how I keep everything pure around me and justified. Read on.
But a fool changeth as the moon.
A fool is spiritual today. Tomorrow he's putting hands on people. Third day he's crying. Fourth day he's sitting back here quiet and silent and dejected and separate.
Know what to expect.
You don't know. Then the fifth day he's smiling again and hugging people. He's a hurricane, huh? He's a hurricane, tsunami on Tuesday, huh? Then it's desert on Wednesday, huh? He's desolate and disconnected. He's just a fool, changes like the damn moon. A wise person is constantly keeping his mindset pure, the conversations are pure, the communication is pure, the counsels are pure, the edification is pure. The fool is always flip-flopping and switching. Read on.
If thou be among the indiscreet, observe the time.
He said, if you're around an indiscreet person, that's a person who's not discreet. What is a discreet person? Considerate, careful with their words. A person that's indiscreet, he says what? He said, observe the time. Get the hell out of there. Right?
Get away from that guy.
Get away from that guy who don't know how to handle his words and his emotions. Don't be around that guy a lot because you'll get in trouble.
Let him isolate out.
Don't go to the club with him.
Especially that.
Don't go to the club with that guy.
Don't get pulled over with that guy either.
Don't get pulled over with that guy. Don't go hang out with that guy. We've learned that lesson. A lot of indiscretion going on back 2 years ago. But anyway, let's keep going.
But be continually among men of understanding.
Yeah, be around people who are trying to serve the Most High and trying to have that same spiritual, virtuous conversation like you are. Okay? With all that, give me the last verse. Proverbs chapter 31 and 26.
You gotta come to class, right?
Yeah, you gotta come to class. You want to hang out with everybody, man. Be part of the team. Proverbs 31 and 26. Proverbs 31, 26, last verse of the night.
Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 26. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness.
Listen, the tongue and the communication of the wise is kindness. But now we understand what real kindness is. Kindness is sharpness. Kindness is directness. Kindness is pure. Kindness is your answers are yea or nay. Kindness is about have enough love to stand up for what's right. And make sure the message is pure and not injecting yourself in the situation. That's kindness. Not just smiling and bribing you to damn death just to get what they want.
Because them boys think kindness is something else too.
Yeah.
They say be kind. Tolerate my negative.
Exactly.
Listen, that's not
a favor
kind,
for a favor is not kindness.
Kind.
Having enough love to sit back and tell you the truth is what kindness is. Does everybody understand that? Are there any questions?
The wounds of a friend.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're going to shut it down, y'all. Thank the water for tuning in. Talk to y'all soon on Wednesday, chapter 1. I might go part 2, but I don't know, man. You know part 2s, man.
I know.
People don't like part 2. I don't know.
We love part 6.
I don't know.
I like this part too.
Well, listen. Shalom, y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.